If you're an online coach, you have to be online. I pour into the relationships, I pour into my clients, and typically it returns to me tenfold in the form of referrals. So I think a lot of online coaches dismiss how they're treating their clients or their communication. I've always been really big on that. I think how I'm differentiating myself in the coach-to-coach market is I'm only teaching what I know. You could have 200,000 followers but not have a strong brand on social media. They can provide a tremendous amount of value without trading their time for money.
Hey, can I ask a little favor? If you've gotten any value out of the Coach Kettles podcast, if you've enjoyed the guests that we've had on, the simple and free way to show that support is to hit that subscribe button. And my commitment to you is to go out and find the best coaches, do the best interviews, pull out the tips, the tricks, so that you can create the coaching business of your dreams. So if you want mine, hit that subscribe button. That allows us to continue doing what we do. Have a great day.
Yo, what's happening? Welcome to the Coach Kettles podcast. We are in season 4 and we're rolling. My name is Trevor and I am your host of the Coach Kettles podcast. On today's episode, I'm super excited to have a conversation with Michael Sheedy of Michael Sheedy Fitness. Now, Michael has a really unique story. He started as a coach making $8 a session as a personal trainer. And now as an online coach, his online business is doing north of $500,000 a year. It's done over $1 million in 2 years of him being online. And he created an incredible offline business. He created a great personal training business. And then he transitioned that into the online world because of some of the other things that online training can provide, like scalability, like time freedom, and freedom of location. So we get into all that. We get into how he did it, some of the things that he feels like he did really well that allowed him to build this new business. And if you're a coach and you're looking at getting into the online space, this is going to be an episode that you're going to take a ton of nuggets out of. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Michael Sheedy. Michael, welcome to the Coach Kettles podcast.
Happy to be here.
Dude, it's great to have you here. We had you at the Super Coach Summit and you crushed it on stage. And you're currently crushing it in the online world, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But I want to get the backstory first because everything's got a backstory. And I know you didn't start here. So how did you get into this industry? How did you get started in the world of like health and fitness and training?
Yeah, great question. Originally I was a trainer and I started at Gold's Gym before it became EOS here in Las Vegas. Before that, I was a skinny kid who just wanted to gain some muscle so that I could play and compete in high school sports, fell in love with fitness, and then started at Gold's Gym as a trainer. My first personal training job, I remember making $8 for a 30-minute session and just thinking like, there's just no way, this is just not enough money. And then I found out from another trainer that you could be an independent trainer who pays the gym an overhead and you're able to run your business. I'm like, that's a much better model. So when I was about 21 years old, I started doing that. Had some mentors in my life and kind of went through the ranks, built a really, successful in-person training business. We were doing over $200,000 a year. And then from there, went online a couple of years ago. So that's kind of the synopsis. I'm sure we'll get into the in-between, but that's where I started.
So let's go back. Like what was the impetus to go online, right? Because you're having success in the offline world, like you're doing well there. Why not figure out more ways to scale that? Why move into a virtual setting?
Yeah, in my mind, always when I was doing in-person training, I was an in-person trainer for 10 years, right? So I've seen I've seen it all, right? And I thought about what would happen if I opened a gym. And then I was like, well, that's not a good idea because my overhead will go up exponentially. And then all the gym owners I know are just burnt out. They end up becoming personal trainers who are not only training clients, but you're also managing people and you take a pay cut. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense for me. And it's not a scalable business model unless you end up creating a franchise, right? So then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start hiring trainers. So I hired a couple trainers to work underneath me, but there's only so many trainers that you could hire working out of a gym that you don't own, to where, it no longer makes sense, as well. So what I found was I hit a ceiling of income in my in-person business that for most people would be, I would say they'd be happy with. Me personally, I just have, I have loftier goals when it comes to income, but not just that. I was still spending, 50 hours a week in a gym. And with that being said, I felt tied down. I had to let my clients know whenever I went on vacation. I had to, if I was ever sick, like God forbid I was sick, and that's something that I felt kind of held back with a little bit. That's when I discovered that you could make an exponential amount of money online, even more than you would for, than in-person training, and also have more location and time freedom, which sure enough, I was able to find out and able to do. So that being said, in-person training is something I loved. I enjoyed doing. I loved helping people in person. It just didn't give me the income, the time freedom, or the location freedom that I wanted. And that's when I, saw somebody else that was doing what I wanted to do. I'm like, wow, this guy is driving this guy had a Maserati, the online trainer. He was driving a Maserati. He was traveling. And I literally messaged him on Instagram and it's like, hey man, what are you doing? And then I actually hired him as a mentor. So that's kind of my story.
So, I mean, what was step one? Because I think there's a lot of coaches that are thinking about moving into this, and maybe they're in the brick and mortar right now, the offline world, and they want to start kind of getting into the online world. So what was step one for you? Obviously, you hired the mentor, right? But what was the first offering? Was it just like one-to-one coaching, or was there something different?
In my online business, what was my first offer?
Yep.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle I had, because I truly do care about my clients' results, is I didn't want to reduce the value that I was giving to people. And I think that's a lot of trainers' thought processes when they're going online is, well, I'm not with them in person. I can't hold them as accountable. Right. I can't get them the same results. It's actually the opposite, because most in-person trainers aren't offering nutrition coaching. They're not doing weekly check-ins. They're not having daily conversations. It's maybe twice a week that you see this client. And then on the weekends, they're doing whatever they want. They're not following a nutrition program. And a lot of in-person trainers actually they have the clients with them for 4 years and the clients never change. Their body compositions never change. You end up becoming a friend more than a coach. So what I found, and it was a limiting belief that I had, was by getting somebody into an online program where I didn't see them in person, I was actually able to hold them not only more accountable because I had more touch points, but I was also able to really emphasize nutrition, which was a major driving change for body composition. And my transformations, I had some from my in-person training, but I actually was able to generate much more powerful transformations from online coaching. And that was I guess that was the first step, was overcoming that limiting belief, offering not just, I'm not trading my time for money anymore. I'm trading my value. What value can I give this person outside of seeing them twice a week and just talking about their wife at home, you know?
Right. They're paying you for a result rather than just a
conversation.
Right.
Yeah. I think training is great. And there's an art to it, and there's a lot of trainers that are professional, but a lot of it turns into just being friends. Mm-hmm. That's what I found personally.
Right.
So,
yeah. So do you remember how you got your first handful of clients online? Were there people that you had worked with offline and then you just transitioned them into this new basically delivery model, or was there somewhere else?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so for me, I've always been very bullish on social media. Even before, it's always been a thing, right? Like Instagram really is like a massive platform that people utilize for generating leads or getting clients in a lot of different businesses, right? But for me, it was 2018. So what was that, 6 years ago? I really started to see how the online space was changing, meaning that the more attention you get, the more ultimately the more business that you can get, right? So I started to work on content creation, not knowing that I was generating what's called a personal brand, right? I was creating, a brand for myself that surrounded Michael Sheedy Fitness. And it was, the discipline, the mindset stuff. It was the maybe funny gym humor. Anyway, so I was building my personal brand on Instagram. And when I decided that I wanted to go online, now I had a bigger reason to start creating content, because I tell online coaches this. If you're an online coach, you have to be online, right? So the good news is it was an easy transition for me because I already had in-person clients that would ride with me no matter what. So I would say about 30% of my in-person clients went. I was able to transition online, and I slowly weaned off my in-person sessions as I started to pick up steam online. And I quit personal training officially in person actually last October because it didn't make sense for me to be in the gym based on how much my time was worth. So my first handful of clients, some of them were my in-person clients, but then as I started to present an offer, because I was confident about what I was going to deliver with online coaching through my social media, which is Instagram, I had people then saying, hey, now that you're not just in Las Vegas, I'm in Utah, you can help me out. I saw what you did with my friend. Let's do this. And
So for you, it wasn't like a hard cutoff, like, hey, I'm done and I'm just moving into the online world. It was kind of like off-ramp from the offline, brick and mortar, and then on-ramp. And so you probably didn't have a huge change in income. You didn't like burn the boats. You just kind of like transitioned it into a different delivery model.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to do things, because a lot of people, they don't go from being a 9-to-5er to an online coach who's traveling the world and working with hundreds of clients, right? Like that doesn't happen overnight. So if you do have a current source of income, or if you're a trainer, it's easy to start putting in that work to where you can start building that bridge to be able to jump over to this being your main source of income. And that's what I did with my online business. Is I slowly weaned off, cut down sessions, and then eventually, and that's where I'm at today, where, I just do all online coaching.
My favorite thing about Coach Catalyst.
One of the things I love most about Coach Catalyst.
There are lots of things I love about Coach Catalyst.
And the reason why I love Coach Catalyst is that
the accountability off the back of that
is simplicity.
The support is amazing.
It allows me to give so much of me to my clients.
It's the drip feeding of content.
I can schedule lessons for my clients in advance.
Game changer for freeing up time.
It gives me my time back.
It's so simple and so easy.
Hi, I'm Kane, the founder of Coach Catalyst, the #1 accountability and communication software on the market today. We help coaches just like you keep their clients accountable and scale their business beyond what they've ever been able to do before. So if that sounds like something you want, let's take a look at how we can help. So Coach Catalyst was built on the 4 C's of coaching. Those are content, communication, community, and consistency. So for content, you need to go beyond just workouts and deliver the whole experience for the client so they get the results they deserve. For communication, you need to own your communication. If you don't own the communication, you don't own the client. So make sure you stop texting clients and use a centralized platform. For communities, get off of Facebook groups and take ownership over your social group with Coach Catalyst communities. And for consistency, the foundation of all results for clients, we took the best-selling book Atomic Habits and built all these fundamentals right within our app that's going to guarantee to get your clients the best results possible. If you want to start using the 4 C's with your clients, content, connection, community, and consistency, make sure you run over to Coach Catalyst and start a free trial today.
Right. So, I mean, what was the offer? What was the delivery? Was it 1-to-1 coaching? Were you doing kind of a group cohort model? Were you doing 6-week, 12-week type of stuff? Like, what did it look like early on? And then we can it's obviously evolved probably since then, but what did it look like initially?
Yeah, no, great question. So one of the books that I've read a couple times that fundamentally changed my perspective on deliverables and also how much you can charge is $100 million offer by Alex Hormozi. That's really, when you read that book and you can apply it to a high ticket model, it makes a lot of sense why you're not trading your time, for money anymore, right? I'm not saying, hey, for 1 hour of my time, I'm worth $50.
Right.
I don't have an amount that I can tell you that my time is worth. However, it is worth a lot more now than it was when I was personal training. That being said, the first offer was really nutrition coaching. It was typically I do a 12-week program, 16-week program, or I do a 6-month program. So it's either 3 months, 4 months, or 6 months. Typically, that's kind of like the timeline that I would deal with when I first started. I would do nutrition programming through PDF. That was the deliverable. Yeah. I would do a training program through PDF. That was the deliverable. And then I would do weekly check-ins. I would do anytime a client had questions, they could reach out. And then I would also do, I want to say bi-weekly calls. It was every 2 weeks. I would get on calls with each client. So two things happened. One, I at one point was doing 150 calls a month. So I realized the bi-weekly calls was just too much with every client because I had 90 clients. I couldn't even keep up. And not every client wanted the calls. And then two, I was able to generate $500,000 in a single year online just with the PDF deliverables, which was getting people results, but was also not as automated as I wanted to. So I actually was able to find, software to integrate into the business to make things more automated as well. Anyways, that's kind of the first offer. But.
What were you charging at that time?
So, good question.
Do you remember?
I think when I first started, my 12-week price was $1,500. For 3 months, it was $1,500. Yeah,
okay. So about $500 a month. And were you doing like all upfront type thing, like a just $1,500 down?
Yeah. So paid in full. I would do paid in full. That's typically what I would want, so I could get the clients everything they need. Or if they wanted to do payments, they would have to pay more on a monthly basis. Right. So you want to incentivize people, of course, to pay in full rather than pay month to month.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then what were they doing after? Like, so when they completed it, probably some people weren't to their goal yet. Would you just have them do another 12 weeks, or did you have like a retention or continuity program that they would go into afterwards?
Yeah. Great question. So, I believe that you should have a long LTV, right? Like, or you should have a higher LTV. And just because you're online doesn't mean that you can't have the same LTV that you had with your in-person business. And I think that's where a lot of online coaches go wrong as well, right? They think like, oh, it's just a one-off deal. Like, no, if you're delivering value and you have community and you have, you've showed up and you've gone above and beyond, those clients should want to continue to work with you. So typically, I've had clients that sign up with me for 3 months and end up being with me for a year. So either A, at the end of their program, we make a game plan for the next 9 months, and I give them a discount for getting in a bigger program, or B, they end up doing the same program but at a discounted rate. Typically, if a client's already working with me, I would give them a discount for continuing on that end.
And like, how many years ago was this when you first went online? Do you know about the year?
December 2022 was my first month offering online coaching. So Sweet. I haven't even eclipsed the two-year mark yet.
So let's talk about a little bit of the evolution in those 2 years. So you went online. What's evolved since you started online in December of 2022 to now? Like, well, let's first start with like the pricing model. Have you kept the same model? Has your model evolved? Like, what does that look like now as compared to what it was in 2022?
Yeah, definitely. So, I've added not only a lot more value to my program, I've made it less frictional for my clients, and I've been able to increase the value of working with me as well, if that makes sense. Just because of how many people want to work with me, right? Yep. So my price has gone up above market value, but that's also because I deliver that type of service. So one of the things that I do is when I sign on a client, I actually send them a custom brand box with my logo, some swag, a bracelet in it, a handwritten note. So every client, when they sign on, immediately they get I collect their address and I send them this brand box. I know that not every online coach is doing that. And I got that from a business coach that I worked with. So I do that. That's a part of my service that wasn't there before. As far as value, I also partnered with Merrick Health, which is the, they do comprehensive blood panels, and they, prescribe different supplements and HRT. So I'm able to offer that. And that's value that I'm able to give to clients. So I'm able to charge a higher price, on that end. I've hired a coach to work with me. So now I have another coach that's helping me with clients, so I can spend time more in areas that are driving the business forward. And I've created better systems for onboarding and more automations with weekly check-ins, as well as training deliverables, all in one place. Because before, it was literally this minimal viable product that had 7 different places that I had to go get things. Yeah. Now I have things kind of on my end that's much easier, and for the clients much easier as well. So definitely an ascension there, and things are.
So what's the price point difference now? So you're around $500 a month. What are you doing now for like a 3-month package?
For a 3-month package without blood work, it's $3,000.
Okay. And then blood work, do you just add that in as kind of at cost, or what do you do with the blood work piece? Because obviously there's a cost to Merrick Health.
Yeah. So for the blood work add-on, it's about double the price. Okay. That's also because there's more follow-ups with that specific price.
And do you see people opting for that aspect more than the lower one? Do you see people opting for the blood work, or no? What do you see as like a percentage of one versus the other?
I would say, it's case by case, right? Not everybody, a 24-year-old, guy doesn't need, if he is feeling great, he doesn't need blood work. I'm not even going to say that that's something I would recommend, right? But if it's somebody who has symptoms of, let's say, potentially vitamin deficiencies, health complications, and or hormonal deficiencies, especially men and women over the age of 35 to 40, that's something that I would then, I don't just give them the option. I prescribe them the option. Hey, this is what I'm going to recommend.
In that kind of initial discovery call or the initial sales call, you're basically giving here's what I need you to do type of thing. Like, based upon everything that you've given me, my professional opinion is to do this because it's going to get you the best results.
Yep, exactly.
So, you've been able to you've been able to double what you charge in a very short period of time, like 2 years. How did you go about that process? Was it like, okay, I'm no one's saying no to me at 1,500. So next person I'm going to sell at 2,000 and see what happens? Or was there a different process that you used in order to kind of keep scaling up your rates?
Yeah, I think you just took the words out of my mouth, right? Like, if you're getting all yeses, then that means you need to charge a higher price, right? So for me, with my in-person business, I was charging, with my in-person training, I charged $175 an hour. So what that means is there's certain people that can't afford my service. And that's okay. Those are the clients I don't want to work with, because most of the time, what I found is the people that are willing to pay a higher dollar amount are typically easier people to deal with. And anyway, so what I found at that lower price is I was getting a lot of yeses. So that told me that I was at like a 80%, 90% close rate. So, if your close rate is over, I would say 60%, you need to raise your prices. And that's what I did. I raised it until I felt it was above market value, which then also drove the value of my program up subconsciously in the people that I would talk to, because they are going to put value based on the price, just like you would pay for YSL or Louis Vuitton versus Michael Kors.
Right. Yeah, which makes sense. And so as you were kind of building up, what were your main lead sources to kind of fill the pipeline? Was it this social media that you had built? Was that driving a lot of this, or did you have any other kind of lead sources where you were bringing in new clients?
Yeah. Great question. So I want to point this out. I have never ran an ad for my business. Everything that I've ever done was organic. Now, some people are for that. Some people are against it. I personally, the biggest month I had I did 85,000 cash collected organically, 0 ads. It was all through Instagram, literally. So that being said, and at the time I only had, that was in January of this year. At the time, I think I had like 10,000 followers, or maybe like 14. Right now I have like 20. But my point to that is you don't need 300,000 followers on Instagram to be able to make multiple 5 figures a month, or even multiple 6 figures a year. My first year online coaching was in 2023. I did over $500,000 in sales top line with only 5,000 followers on Instagram. So I think that's a limiting belief. So I would say 60% of my leads come organically through social media, whether it's people following me or new followers. And the other 40% comes from referrals. I think a big part of the online space, especially coaching, that I think a lot of coaches underutilize is the referral network. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. I think one, a lot of coaches think that the sale is over once you close a client or get a new client, but that's where the sale starts, right? That's where you're able to then, deliver above and beyond what was promised. Of course, if it's reciprocated, so that you can earn the business of that person in the future and also potentially the people around them once you give them the results that they're looking for. So my thing has always been, I pour into the relationships, I pour into my clients, and typically it returns to me tenfold in the form of referrals.
Okay, now this is what I've been asking for. Listen, when you're a thick, fit girl like me who loves to eat and lift, the scale isn't always your friend at tracking your progress. And that's why I'm so excited to tell you about the ZozoFit app. This is the part I love. Right from your smartphone, it takes a 3D scan of your body, then delivers you a 360 view of your body with all of the measurements and body fat percentage. How easy is that? You can also use the calorimetric comparison feature to track your different scans over time. Now, this is a great way of tracking your progress and creating a workout plan that addresses your goals.
And do you have any formal process around asking referrals or getting referrals, or is it simply a reciprocation of, hey, I'm providing a ton of value for you, right? And so what I want to figure out is like, is there a process? Because some people do have processes for referrals. They ask about it X, Y, and Z. But do you have anything like that, or is it more just an organic process that it just happens?
I found that you seem needy if you ask for referrals. And I think personally, if somebody really thinks that your product or service is incredible, they're going to tell the people around them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that I'm able to generate referrals easily as well is through transformations and collaborations through social media with clients. So if clients get a great result, I'm going to ask them, hey, can we do a collaboration on a transformation? And then I would tag them in a post. They're going to repost it. Their whole network sees it. And then you got loads of people coming in.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And so any other kind of marketing strategies? Obviously, Instagram is a big piece for you. Do you do email marketing?
Massive.
Are you doing any other pieces?
I don't do email marketing. I don't have a website. I've generated over $1 million in less than 2 years with no website, no email marketing, all organic content and referrals.
And so why do you think you've been able to be successful with that? I mean, 5,000 followers is a handful of people, right? So it's not 100,000 followers, right? And so what have you done differently with your social media that's allowed you to build a multi-6-figure business?
Yeah. So if you think about, so $500,000 in a year, top line, right? 40% of that is going to be what, like $200,000. So
right.
if you can create, so if I've been able to generate $200,000 based on referrals, what does that tell you? My deliverables is amazing, right? Like I follow through, I give the clients results. I think a lot of online coaches dismiss how they're treating their clients or their communication. I've always been really big on that. And I think like that's number one. I think that's always number one is like your relationships and your commitments and your communication with your clients. Like that is number one, right? And I think number two, for me, what's created the success, how have I been able to generate a multiple six-figure business with no ads, no email marketing, no website, is through consistency and the value I'm delivering and clarity and the type of person that I'm marketing to.
So for you, the type of person that you're marketing to, did you know this from the beginning because of who you'd worked with in the offline world? And you're like, okay, I've been able to kind of, because most coaches, when they get started, they're like, they think they know who they want to work with, but like then they end up working with a bunch of people or they end up with a credit card. And then eventually they kind of find their niche. So did you find that niche before you even went into the online world? You knew, hey, I wanted to work with men that wanted to transform their bodies.
Yeah, great question. So I think and again, this is like something that I read in Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offer. You have to start with first who it is you want to work with. Then you craft your offer based on who it is that you want to work with. Then you start marketing so that you can get people to buy the offer. Then you create your fulfillment. And then it's a cyclical process. So if you don't have clarity in that, you have to ask yourself before you create your offer, who are you creating your offer for? The first thing is, who have you had success with? If you're an in-person trainer, who have you had the most success with, and who is most likely to reach out to you about coaching, right? That's number one. Number two would be, who do you enjoy working with too? I think a big part of the coaching space is like, also, who do you enjoy working with? So for me personally, when I first started personal training, I worked with a lot of like bikini girls and nightlife and these cocktail waitresses. Because of Las Vegas and the industry that I was in, naturally those girls were attracted to the training model. As I started to raise my price, they no longer wanted to pay $50 an hour. Or they wanted to continue to pay $50 an hour, not $100. So naturally that started to attract more, I would say, entrepreneurs or more people that were business owners, people that had the expendable income to be able to afford that. Then what happened was, as I started to present my physique on social media, and I've been in good shape for 10 years, six pack and lean and muscular. I presented this physique on social media that looked like a beach physique, right? It wasn't overdone. So I started attracting men who wanted to achieve that same result. I started creating these transformations with these guys, and I was like, man, this is fun. Not only is it easier for me personally to work with men, I find they get results a lot quicker. So I was like, wow, I got this niche. I'm really good with men. I work with entrepreneurs as I started to raise my price. So I got great results with these guys and I enjoyed working with them. So that's kind of how my niche, the balloons, that always happens. I don't know how to turn it off.
No, it's all good.
I don't know how to turn it off anyway. So that was kind of the transition that I asked myself before I went online. And then I think it's slightly changed and I've actually niched down. One of the things, like, I was on Ryan Pineda's podcast and him and I were talking, and he was totally in agreement. Like, you cannot start broad. A lot of people want to help everybody. If you try to help everybody, not only can you not charge a high price, but your messaging is going to be very diluted. My messaging is very specific because most of the time I'm talking to men who are business owners or entrepreneurs who want to optimize their health, get in the best shape of their life, because money isn't the only answer for happiness. That's kind of like my message, right? Mm-hmm. And it's powerful.
Was that kind of an evolution? Did you kind of work through that? Or like one day you kind of woke up and was like, this is what I want to do? Or did it take you kind of just putting stuff out there, seeing what resonated, and then finally coming to like a crystallization on what it is?
So before I got a business mentor, it was something that was just kind of like organic and gradually started to gain momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my online business mentors was like, hey, you got to niche down, right? Like that word is used often, but it's the truth. Like you can charge more when you are helping a specific subgroup of people. Like I am not going to market myself to women with PCOS and postpartum moms, because if I do that, I'm going to push away, the guys who are entrepreneurs. They're gonna be like, okay, this guy's helping with. Anyway, so I think personally, by niching down, your message becomes stronger and you can charge more, which I think my business is proof of that.
So many people will say that kind of Instagram isn't necessarily a market for men, business owners, people that are really busy running things, but you've kind of proven that to be false. Is that accurate?
People have said that Instagram isn't a market for...
So business owners, entrepreneurs aren't spending a lot of time on Instagram. And so that may not be the best place to get them. People may say LinkedIn is better because you're going to find those types of people on LinkedIn. But you're obviously not, that's not the case for you.
I'm not opposed to LinkedIn. I've actually seen, some people become successful on LinkedIn because that's where, a lot of business guys and entrepreneurs are. I'm not personally on there. I've generated it through Instagram. So what I would say, it's false because it's there. So, I mean, the market's there. And for me, I get feedback from the market and that's how I respond, right? Like I'm not creating things for the market that the market isn't telling me that they need. I see the need and I feel it, right?
That makes sense.
So
I'd recommend this to any coaches or even clinicians out there that are looking to build a business around a product that they already really believe in.
As a brand new user, just being sold on the streamline of being able to put everything in a centralized location, anyone that is just fumbling with Google Sheets to Facebook messages, group messaging, text messaging.
For anybody that wants to be able to coach their clients, many times you use different tools and resources, and when you're trying to manage that, even on a Google Sheet or on regular technology, you're limited on duplicating the data over and over.
I think if I'm going to, recommend the app for anyone, it's me myself. If I want to take my business to the next level, so definitely looking to do that in the near future here. Everybody can really benefit from it. I use it in the rehab sphere, but I also utilize it in the training thing. You can do the same thing with nutrition, right? There's so many uses for it.
For everybody, coaches, clinicians, anyone that kind of works in the industry, chiros, PTs, trainers.
This is one simple solution that we can create to all of our users and all our clients.
So if you want to create a way to systematize your business so you can scale, I have not seen a better product for that.
All right, so I want to circle back to one thing that you mentioned earlier. You said there's a couple points on really reasons you feel like you've been really successful in this world. One being consistency and another one being communication. And so I want to know if you have any systems around communication so that you're not dropping the ball with clients, you're able to execute it over and over and over again. Because we see with a lot of people, as they get busier, communication and some of that stuff starts to fall off because you're busy doing other things. So how do you make sure that you're executing on that with every client every day?
Yeah, great question. So I don't have any automation set up for daily, like a daily message, because then I think that gets to be a little much. I think that accountability is massive. I think the perfect amount of touch points is I think once to twice a week, right? Okay. So all of my clients, I require them to do a weekly check-in. If you're going to work with me, we got to touch base on a weekly basis. So I have a software that not only delivers training, but that also has automated weekly check-ins. So every single week on Sunday, they'll get the message, hey, submit your pictures, submit your weekly check-in form, submit your weight. Yep. And then I set expectations up front that I will respond, on the Monday following their check-in with responses. Now, not only have I automated that portion of my business, I've also now delegated it to a coach who works with me to deliver that service.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the questions that are in your check-in?
How was your week? How do you feel? How's your energy? How's your sleep? How's your follow through on your nutrition? How's your follow through on your training? What's your current weight? What was your last weight? Do you have any questions?
Okay. How long do you think that takes a client to fill out?
10 minutes or
Like
less.
5-10 minutes,
Probably
yeah.
5 minutes. 5 minutes, yeah.
And are you finding, I mean, people are consistent with that? Or are you having to ping people like, hey, I didn't get your check-in this week. Let's get that in? Or is that the standard from the beginning and people just understand and respect that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things. One, you got to set an expectation that you're not going to chase people down for them to do work that they need to be doing for themselves. But two, also, if you have somebody that falls off, you should be reaching out, and saying, hey, what's going on? Right. I think that's your job as a coach. But typically, that's not until enough time has gone by where it's like, okay, are you still there? Because you want to make sure you did your part, as part of the relationship.
Right. And for you, a lot of your deliverables, obviously, if somebody's doing blood work, there's going to be that piece in conjunction with like Mark Health, but it's going to be workouts every week. It's going to be nutrition. Are you doing kind of macro-based stuff or more kind of habit lifestyle?
Say that again.
For the nutrition piece, are you more kind of in like the prescribing macros, giving them that stuff, or is it more like, hey, here are the habits or the actions that you're going to be working on and executing on?
I'm more. I think a lot of people I think macro coaching is interesting to me, and I don't think habit coaching is interesting to me. There's two different fields of thought, and I think you brought up both of them. One is like, hey, here's your prescription. The other is, hey, let's work on cutting out, drinking soda, and let's get to the gym more often. If you want that type of coach, I'm not that coach. I believe in giving somebody a plan that they can follow. Most people that reach out, they're looking for direct guidance and they want structure. And that's what I give my clients. Most of the time they're coming to me not because they have a lot of discipline and not because they have it figured out. They need you to tell them exactly what to do, typically. I don't believe in intuitive habits or intuitive eating, because if everybody did that, that's why over 70% of the population is overweight.
So are you basically saying, hey, eat this for breakfast, or here's a couple breakfast options, eat this for lunch, eat this for dinner?
I'll give macros and the exact meal plan
that they can execute on.
Yep.
Sweet. And then their check-in is basically how well they've been sticking to that and then adjusting that based upon their adherence.
You got
and
it.
What's changing with their numbers and all of that.
Yep.
Are there any other deliverables that you do? Do you have any like group calls where you're bringing together guys to come together on a call to do any of that?
Yeah, so I do weekly group calls. Yeah, so I think community is also really important. So I have a community outside of the coaching I do one-on-one, and the community is a part of the deliverables. And then I also do a weekly group call that I would say a decent amount of clients get on. It's not for everybody, but the people that do enjoy it, they're on the calls every week. So,
and are you still doing the one-to-one coaching calls, or is that outsourced to, or not necessarily outsourced, but does someone on your team handle that? Or have you found that, hey, that wasn't valuable, and so we've just discontinued doing some of that stuff?
Yeah, I think there's both, actually. Number one, I found that too many calls is just like, it's not needed.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're doing like a weekly group call, that takes care of most of what people need outside of weekly check-ins. But if someone wants more of my time, that is going to be a higher ticket price as well. But for base coaching and to get results that a lot of people need, I don't have like biweekly calls anymore.
So the weekly check-in is really that main touch point of getting information.
It's a lot. You can get a lot done with that. Yeah.
Right.
As a coach that runs challenges, I needed my life back. I had stuff all over the place. A Facebook group for community interaction, Google Sheets for check-ins and measurements, and was drowning in email communication. As my challenges grew past just a handful of people, I started to notice clients were falling through the cracks. I began researching virtual assistants because I just couldn't manage it all. And truthfully, the client experience was going down the drain. Luckily, a friend recommended Coach Catalyst and just told me to trust her. I'm sure glad I did. Now I can run my challenges with 2 or 200 clients with just a few clicks. The lessons get delivered on the right days, the accountability happens automatically, and most importantly, the communication is all in one spot. I even created 2 new challenges from the Coach Catalyst library. Best part, didn't have to change a thing. I used to spend 15 minutes just trying to log into all the apps I needed. Now I log in and my dashboard tells me who needs a shout out and who needs a kick in the butt in about 15 seconds. I feel like a huge weight is lifted off of my shoulders. I can finally spend my time coaching again instead of worrying about all the admin work. Do your brain a favor and get Coach Catalyst.
Sorry, repeat that question. I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the second point a little bit more, the consistency.
Yeah,
And
I think both.
think you
I mean,
meant consistency
I think they're
really
synergistic, right? Because if you want to be an online coach, you have to be online.
And social
I
presence.
think there's
So correct
people
me if I'm
struggle
wrong,
with
but tell me a little
feeling
bit
like
more
they're
about
being
how,
judged by
like,
other
you
people
are
from the
executing
content
from
they
this
post,
consistency basis.
and they're like they have imposter syndrome. And or they have too many distractions in their life, or they're not committed to actually doing the actions that they know will get them ahead. So what I've been able to pinpoint is it's the little things that you do on a daily basis that add up over time. It's not some crazy marketing tactic or this these things that you're not doing that other people are doing. It's the people that are at the top of industries, in maybe even or not maybe in this space as well, are people that can day in and day out execute on the little things really well. Is there 3 things that you need to get done that you're not getting done that are going to move the needle, or you're just focusing on things you don't need to focus on? And that's what I found has helped me to be successful in regards to being able to post the content I need to post, to be able to show up for my clients on a daily basis and a weekly basis. I see a lot of online coaches. Maybe a client reaches out to them. I've had so many people come to me and say, "Oh, I didn't hear back from my coach for 2 weeks." Well, that should never happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I think I could definitely like quantify what that is. I think at this point I do it as a habit. But I try to post on my stories on Instagram 4 to 6 times a day. I'm posting Instagram content, 3 to 4 times a week, at least. Those are the things from a marketing perspective that I try to do consistently. I'm also doing market research probably on a daily basis. I'm looking at
like a checklist,
what kind of content
every day
is
I'm going to
trending,
execute on X, Y, and Z.
why is that content working well?
Day.
And then putting time aside to then batch content, on a weekly basis as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm both, right? I think there's something to be said about conviction-based content, which I'm really big on conviction-based content, which is like I'll do that on my story.
Right.
Like you'll see me do it. Like I'll just pull out my phone after I have a thought or a conversation, and I'll kind of just like talk about that or tell a quick story because the emotion is really fresh. And I find that to be very that connects with my audience well. So if there's a piece of content that I have conviction for,
so you're more of like a batch guy where you're going to create a bunch of things in one
valuable content.
Rather
you
than
do need to
kind of thinking about, hey, what am I going to create today, and then just kind
focused
of flowing with
2 hours, potentially on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, where you're creating multiple pieces of content, whether it's talking head content, whether it's you're clipping up a podcast you did, or whether it's doing some general, creative content around your specific niche and providing value to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say I'm not like organized in the process of like, oh, this week I'm doing this week I'm doing this. I do it based off of how much time I have, to be honest with you, and what I feel convicted about at that time. Now, I feel a lot of people try to delegate marketing, and unless you're at the point of like
Are you
Gary
utilizing
Vee,
like
Grant
a marketing
Cardone,
calendar or anything
Alex
like that where
Hormozi,
you're planning this stuff
all
out
you should be
in
doing
advance, or
all
are
of
you
your
maybe
marketing
like a
and
week
content
ahead and like,
because
hey,
you
this
need
is
to
what I
get
want to
your
do
message.
in my
You
next
need to
round of
strengthen
stuff?
your own
What does your
voice, your own
process look
message,
like?
and you should be have a hand in that. That's what I think personally.
Right.
Yeah, great question. I personally feel right now in the market that the one that was everybody was doing was the five guys and five girls CTA. That
And
is
then
no
for you,
longer
are
working
you
because everybody
doing call
took
to
that
actions within
organic
that
CTA and they
content to
turned it
drive
into an
people
ad.
to
And I think
maybe
the
a form to
market,
fill out
a
or
lot
like
of people right
the
now
word is escaping me, but
are very skeptical
basically like a
of
way for them to
marketers.
apply to
So
work with you, like an application. An
what used
application
to
to work with
work
you, or are you driving
3
into
months
a
ago,
call? Like what are some of your
especially a year
calls
ago,
to
is not
actions that you
working
found
anymore.
have been
So
effective in taking
CTAs
eyeballs and
need to be
moving them
more
into
organic than ever.
the
So
process of
what I
working with
found
you?
is like an action word at the end of a caption works really well. Message me coaching, or message me one-on-one if you're looking for help with your with your diet, or you're looking for help with the transformation. That works well versus I'm looking for five guys. If you do that immediately, because that's what's called a scarcity marketing tactic, but now the market has been overused that so much that people are no longer feeling comfortable with responding to that type of CTA. So I think more organic CTAs and really having people just reach out organically based on the social proof. I think social proof right now is also still working really, really well, meaning, you post a transformation and you post a conversation and people go, wow, this guy is the top and he's getting these people results. I need to reach out to him. So.
Right.
You got it. Exactly. Right. I'm telling you right now, this is probably the best piece of advice that I could give anybody right now is CTAs that were used on Instagram stories and or CTAs in general are now being used as ads because everybody's running Instagram ads. So the market now sees your CTA as an ad and not an organic conversation to be had. So people that want to actually work with you are going to respond much better with an organic conversation around the idea of working with you, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you're driving your goal is just to drive conversations, essentially trying to drive DMs to be able to start that conversation.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, nothing has changed
that
for
makes
me.
sense.
I don't
what.
Yeah, I don't
no, I like it, and that's
to
similar to
that
what
thinking.
we're seeing kind of in the market as well. Are you seeing this podcast? People are probably listening to this the end of 2024, maybe the beginning of 2025. But right now we're recording in October. And so are you seeing even like a change in the market right now as we're leading into like an election season? And I shouldn't say an election season, but the
like
tail
before
end
I
of an
started
election,
or
and
at the
people maybe
beginning
not
of the journey?
as willing to spend, or does your market not being affected by some of those kind of broader dynamics? Sweet. Cool. I like it. All right. What's one thing that, knowing what you know now, advice you'd give to yourself 2 years ago when you were just getting started, just getting off the ground? What's something that you would tell yourself that would maybe help you accelerate what you were doing?
I would say automate through humans. So I tried to automate too many things through
even knowing what you
software,
know
which
now, you're
I don't
just going
think
to
is.
get into
I
the
don't
online
think
space.
automating things is bad.
So maybe a mistake
But
that you made
there's
over
a
the last
human
couple
element
years
of
that
online
like,
coaching
hey,
that still needs to be
if I
there.
didn't
So for
do
me to
that,
scale to the
right,
next level, which I've done,
would gotten to
it
where
was
I am
putting
now
somebody else
quicker, or
in the place
knowing what I know
to
now,
be able
I could
to
have
deliver
accelerated the process.
to the
If you were to do
client
this all over again,
in the form of a
my
relationship.
thinking
And
is
that's
you'd be able to
what
do it
I
half
think
the
the
time.
biggest
So you
lesson
kind of understand
that I
the
can give
process at
myself.
this point. So what are the things you would do to
Like having a
basically
team,
get
like
the same result in half the
correct.
amount of
Having
time?
an assistant coach who's front facing that has authority versus versus me trying to do everything and then
What does that mean?
automating things because I don't trust somebody else to do it. One of the things that Dan Martell says is it's better to have somebody do it at 80% of what you're capable of doing at 100%, because that time that you get back, you can pour into creating a scaling a business, right? Or being more on social media because you need to be. And I think a lot of coaches get burnt out because they're not willing,
It's like bringing
or
on maybe
they
an
feel
assistant
a
coach
scarcity
a little bit
mindset
earlier.
that if they spend more money in their business on expenses such as hiring somebody, it's going to take away, when in reality they're buying back their time to be able to focus on the skills they need to scale their business. That's the lesson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I still run pretty lean, which I think it's a good idea to stay as lean as possible. But I have I have an admin assistant and I have a coach, a single coach right now that works for me. I have currently 80 clients. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what does your team look like now as you've grown? What pieces have you started to bring on people to help with?
Sorry, ask that question again.
What do you? I mean, how many clients do you? I've asked this question to most
honestly,
people, but
probably
doing
15.
the type of coaching that you're doing, which is very much like a
that's for
one-on-one
me
type of
personally.
approach,
That's for me.
Where
Like
there's a
probably
lot of
15
connection,
because
there's a lot of
if you're doing
communication.
weekly check-ins, if you're following up with everybody, if you're trying to do onboarding, if you're doing
like have
marketing,
a life and still
I think a lot of coaches
but also make a good income.
Get help quick enough in their businesses. That's what I think. They
One
try
coach,
to do
no
everything
assistant.
on their own for way
So
too
how
long.
many clients
if you've
do you
hit,
think
this
you
is
could
this
have?
is what I
No
this is
assistant,
my thought.
no other
If
people
you've hit
helping you,
$20,000 a month,
and feel like, hey, I still have a life.
2 months in
I'm
a
still
row,
able to do
you need
the
to hire
things that I
somebody
need to do.
immediately.
What is that number for you? Is it like 30? Is it 40? Is it 50? Is it 100?
But good question. I think that the first hire is an admin assistant. First hire. So I always I ask coaches, because I also help coaches to scale their businesses and grow their social media. I always ask coaches, where are you spending a majority of your time? Right? Is it onboarding? Is it weekly check-ins? How much admin work are you doing? Are you tracking your clients? I think the first hire in any business, honestly, is admin work, because admin work you can hire for a very low dollar amount.
When you hire,
getting
when
that
you say
time
hire
back
somebody, is that
monumental
an
to
administrative
then
assistant?
bring on more clients. So I think the first hire,
what do you think that first hire
is admin, and then the second hire is a coach to do what you're basically doing. Mm-hmm. I think an admin assistant should be making sure that the client is going through the onboarding process efficiently and quickly to make sure that it's sticky, right? Like you need to have a sticky onboarding process, which basically means that once a client signs up, how quick are they signing the program agreement? How quickly are they being sent onboarding forms? How quickly are they setting up their next call? Those things can be tracked by an onboarding by an admin assistant.
So for that
how much
admin
the client
hire, what are some of the tasks
when their
that you
start
see
date is for the program, when their end date is, putting that all in one central, place.
Admin.
And I think that's an integral part of the business. Focus on marketing. Mm-hmm. the coach should be doing marketing and being the coach, right? And then once you have enough clients, you delegate being the coach, and you're just the face of the business. That's the goal. I personally love
kind of just
creating content. I love marketing.
Time
I love podcast stuff. I like this. I also love coaching
on marketing.
But I don't like the small nuances of coaching. I would rather give a broader message. That's why for me, like, I will probably forever do a group call once a week, for my fitness clients, because I just love
for you.
I just love that, getting feedback, hearing about the wins, giving coaching, like a very powerful message.
You enjoy
the little nuances of, hey, subtract 25 grams of carbs here, increase your protein here. That's things that I can easily teach somebody else to do and deliver at a level that's still at the
highest level,
very high, level of service, so that I can do the things that I love, which is being a part of the marketing, being a part of the content creation, and ultimately building the brand. Those are the things that I enjoy. So to answer your question, yes, my goal was to create a business that was scalable and that I can delegate so that I can grow in the areas that I need to for both my business and myself. Yeah. Great question. For me, I've always loved being a leader. I've always enjoyed coaching. When I was doing personal training, my goal before I went online was to coach other personal trainers on how to create a 6-figure personal training business. Then I realized, wait, there's an even better model for
what's next?
Coaches,
what's
which
next
is online
for you
coaching.
guys
So now that I've
in your
learned that
business?
space,
Is it
and I've done
continue
a
to
really,
grow and hire coaches and build
I've
out
had
that way? Is it different
I would
service
say
offerings?
a good amount of success online in the past few years.
Like, hey, we're
I've
good with where
started
we're at
to have
right now,
other coaches reach out to me and ask me for
profit
help on,
margins
hey,
and that kind of
how
stuff.
are you doing what you're doing? I'd like help.
What's
So
the next step for your coaching
created,
business?
with my fitness coaching business, that's something I'm pouring into, and I've, delegated a little bit, but I'm also helping coaches to scale their business organically through Instagram as well. So that's kind of the model right now for me, is to continue to grow Michael Sheedy Fitness as a brand, and then also not just help people in fitness, but help them in their business as well. So that's the goal.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is.
The Super Coach Summit by Coach Catalyst is room for opportunity.
Is badass.
It's fucking awesome.
Over-delivered. They talked about it, and they definitely did it.
Is amazing.
It's just been invigorating.
Is exemplary. It's phenomenal, and just a great time with great people. And you feel like, in Ohana, you feel like a family.
It's unreal.
Is awesome.
What will help separate the 1% from the 99%.
Is a really well thought out event, well conceived, well planned, and well executed.
It's such an amazing event to be at in order to grow your business and network with other professionals.
It is top tier. It's one of the best I've been to in the business. It's been unbelievable, and I'm just excited to finish out the day here and keep making connections.
It's an event that you will be very happy that you have attended, because next year is going to be even better than this one.
Is freaking badass. If you're not here, you're missing out. See you next year.
So with a new coach that wants to move in the online space, like what is like step one for them? What do you, when you're seeing coaches come in, what do you feel like is the first thing that they should be doing in order to start moving into the online space?
Like they've never made money online before.
Offline coach, maybe been in a big box gym coaching for 3-4 years. So a good coach. So they understand how to coach, but they've never made money. And let's say they don't have much of a following either. So they don't have a large social presence because they spend all of their time in the offline world. What's like a piece of advice for that person, or one of the first things that they should be focusing on in order to have success in the online world?
Yeah, I think number one is realizing that they can provide a tremendous amount of value without trading their time for money, right? Getting away from, hey, it's $50 an hour, 3 times a week, instead going, hey, I can charge a very high ticket price, right? High ticket online coaching is the easiest transition for somebody who doesn't have a very large following coming from in-person training. trying to make money online, you can easily charge $1,200 to $1,800 for, a program that delivers the same value you would in person. So kind of changing that belief system, crushing that limiting belief. That's what I found is the first thing that's needed. And then the second would be market research. I think it's really important to look at who are the people that are in the space that you want to get in that are doing really, really well. And what are they doing that you're not doing, whether it's the execution part or whether it's the type of content, because the best, the leaders in business aren't necessarily always the person that's the most technical. And that's what personal trainers think. They think, well, since I'm the best personal trainer and I know every anatomical position of the body and I know every little nuance of micronutrients, I deserve to make $10,000 a month online. Not necessarily. If people don't know who you are, what you do, and the value you provide because you don't understand how to properly position yourself in the market through social media, through organic content, you're not going to get clients. So market research is where you start. And then from there, you figure out who it is you want to work with, what your offer would be, and then sales. That's it.
So from a market research standpoint, is it simply just like going on to platforms and kind of searching for key terms that you may be, trying to present into the marketplace, or just trying to find those influencers?
You don't want to look at, you don't want to look at key terms. You want to look at specifically avatars, right? So like I'm somebody who wants to work with entrepreneurs and or business owners. I'm going to look at coaches in the past, or not in the past, coaches currently that are at the level creating content specifically for that type of avatar, or are generating a lot of attention, who are online fitness coaches. And I'm going to then say, okay, how can I replicate that piece of content, not steal it necessarily, but be inspired by it and see that that format is working, and then create that using my own voice.
Right. That makes sense. Oh, I like that. That's awesome, man. And so, and now with your kind of helping coaches move into this space, you said specifically with Instagram too. So do you feel like that's a little bit of how you're kind of differentiating yourself in this kind of coach to coach market?
I think how I'm differentiating myself in the coach to coach market is I'm only teaching what I know. And I think a lot of people try to teach what they don't know and what didn't make them successful. What made me successful was my personal brand. I've generated my personal brand is very strong. I mean, that's, part of the reason I was able to get on stage, at the conference was because I connected with another guy, and he's like, dude, this guy has a very strong brand presence, right? It wasn't necessarily that you could have 200,000 followers, but not have a strong brand on social media. So my personal brand is how I separate myself in the space. And then just the fact that I don't do email marketing, I don't have a website, I don't do ads, and I've been able to generate over $1 million in less than 2 years online. So a lot of people are trying to teach stuff they don't know, or what I see is like coach to coaches who are running ads and then teaching their clients how to do organic marketing, right? Which doesn't make sense to me. If you have 3,000 followers on social media, but you're trying to teach somebody how to grow their social media, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my thought process. So
no, I like it. And like ultimately there's many ways to success, right? And
Correct.
so there are some coaches that crush it with email marketing, and that's kind of their main form, but that's what they know. Maybe they're great copywriters. Maybe they really enjoy that format, right? Other people love video. They love creating. They love that process, right? And honestly, for me, like I think if you can find the thing that you enjoy, because marketing is going to be something you're going to have to do for pretty much the entirety of time, right?
Yep.
And if you're doing something you just don't enjoy, you're just not going to be able to stick with it long enough to really end up getting the results. And so I think for you, just me seeing from the outside, like you found something that you really enjoy, a format that you really enjoy creating in on a regular basis. And because you enjoy it, you're able to go deep with it. And then because you're able to go deep, now you start to really reap the rewards because of this like depth that you went along with the consistency over time. And so it's just cool. Like I love seeing people succeed. And so it's been awesome to like hear your story. So
thank you.
Let's kind of wrap this thing up with just some rapid fire. Just going to throw some just super off the wall, random questions at you. Super simple. And let's rock and roll. So burrito, taco, or quesadilla? Which one you got?
Chicken quesadilla.
Chicken quesadilla. All right. They got good quesadillas out in Vegas?
I don't eat quesadillas often, but if I eat one, it's going to be a chicken quesadilla. That would be my go-to 100%.
All right. I like it. All right. You get reincarnated as an animal based upon your personality. What kind of animal are you coming back as?
Probably based on my personality. Man, I feel like this is such a cliche answer because it's like every guy wants to be like probably like a lion or a bear.
Yeah.
Something like, you know what I mean? Just
Like what
because
kind
I'm
of, like a
a
grizzly bear, or like a brown bear, or like a black bear? Which one do you think of?
albino bear. I don't know. Maybe a polar bear because I'm so
bear?
white. Yeah,
I like it.
maybe that. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Any tech that you've gotten recently that's relatively inexpensive, let's say under $100, or a book that you've read recently, or a book that's just in your kind of main ones that you feel like would be really valuable for someone to know about? So tech or a book, either or.
Technology.
Is there any like devices or anything you've gotten recently?
Around $100?
Let's keep it like close to 100. We don't want to drop like a $5,000 thing, but like something someone can go grab.
My walking pad. Walking pads are super cheap, and now I can get my steps in while I do work at home.
So have you found that you can do certain types of work while you're walking, or can you pretty much do anything?
Right. So there's that, right? Because there's certain, like for the podcast, I didn't want to be on my walking pad because I felt like, it'd be like too much bouncing around. For like general like coaching calls, like if I'm just catching up with a client, or even if I'm doing my weekly live group call, I can easily be on that. So of course it's not like work where I'm typing, but a lot of the work I'm doing at home when I'm not like outside the house at like a coffee shop is just like face-to-face communication that I can do while walking. So I found that that's been a great purchase. I would recommend that to anybody that works at home.
I love that. This just kind of triggered an idea for me. Like, because your work is now really anywhere, where do you work on a consistent basis? Do you have an office in your house? Do you do coffee shops? Like, what is your process like?
Great question. So I don't need an office because I do everything just on my computer and my phone. So I don't really need like a full office setup. I have a second bedroom in my house that I haven't even really set up. So I'll work. I have a standing desk that I can either put the walking pad or not on. I have my dining room table, but typically if I'm not on calls, I like to get out of the house and I'll go to a coffee shop and do like 2 hours of focused work in the morning. That's typically what I enjoy doing. Yeah.
I like it. All right. Last question. If you could have dinner with any person, past or present, who would you like to have a conversation with?
If I can go to dinner with any person, past or present,
alive or dead, who would you want to go to dinner with?
Donald Trump.
Interesting.
One of the most prolific people in the past, like freaking 20 years. The dude, like politics aside, right? Politics aside, like his ascension from where he was, like as a business owner, and then he had a TV show, and he was like prolific and very, very out there, and then being able to run for that's crazy. His whole thing has been. I would love to hear about his marketing model, because that's really what it is. His ability to promote himself has been insane. Either him or The Rock, honestly. Dwayne Johnson I think would be an awesome conversation as well. Those are the two.
That's sweet. I like it. I like it, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. If people want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing and start to maybe even model some of the stuff that you're doing, where should people go to find out more about you?
Instagram, Michael Sheedy Fitness.
Sweet. Make it easy.
Yeah. Come and connect with me. Look at, if you're a coach, and send me a message. I love helping people too. So,
It's awesome, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Awesome, Trevor. Thank you for having me, brother. And it was a pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Coach Catalyst podcast. If you are a coach looking to do more for your clients than just workouts, give Coach Catalyst a test drive. Try it for 14 days. Jump on call with your personal strategy coach, Ashley, and see how easy technology can be, all for free. Tell them Trevor sent you. Until next time, keep changing lives.